Hi everyone. I'm sorry for going off my rant. You know what I'm saying? But that's just how I feel about the IWC. There's people on here that don't appreciate crap. And they have a YouTube channel and all they do is spread hate. They don't have no motivation whatsoever. I'm sorry to start the NXT review like this December 9th episode, but it's the truth, and it's just the truth. But anyways, let's carry this show, guys. Let's talk about WWE NXT December 9th episode, which was a fun show as well. Let's talk about it. So Obafemi addresses the NXT crowd, and Obafemi performs a little stunt down to the ring. The crowd chants, "Oh, oh, 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 oh." Oh, I love when they do that stuff, man. Then the power Oval family begins and does not bend, break, or beg. And Oval family acknowledges his deadline opponent Ricky Saints in saying that he essentially knocked Oval family off his name. And regardless, NXT was not the same without Oval family on top. And so the champion reclaims his title, and Oval family calls out Cody Rhodes, his Saturday night main event opponent, and he says that Cody Rhodes wouldn't see potential of a future threat, and Cody Rhodes will see instead the now danger in the present, which we already talked about that, guys. And then the recent dethroned Ricky Saints, who came out to interrupt the new NXT title holder, and he celebrates Obafemi on his title win, and he acknowledges him. And Ricky Saints says that he's man enough to admit that Obafemi was the better man at deadline, and he begins to powder over what is next for his NXT career, and mobilely worried that another NXT champion reign is past him, in which worries are only temporarily. And Ricky Saints strings another challenge onto Oba Family and claiming that there's a 1-to-1 the challenge and a tied breaker for the NXT championship. Then the 2025 Iron Survivor, Devon Evans makes his percent known, and he blows on his percent successful deadline performance and reminds the two men in the ring that he is the number one contender for the NXT championship. And Devon Evans begins the powder why he would wait to New Year's Evil to cash in his Iron Survivor privilege and land the gauntlet for Olafemi to put up his title tonight. And Ricky Saints as Devon Evans why he's in a rush as Olafemi shakes his head in belief, disbelief. I'll say it again, disbelief and disbelief. And Ricky Saints distorts Devon Evans from crushing into his title opportunity. And Devon Evans impresses his frustrations with Ricky Saints and continually advises and claims that he's not the future, but he's the right now. And Devon Evans doubles down on his self-essentially in the highlights as his friends on the AAA and NXT and WWE Raw and being in a feud, and he confirms his sins to challenge Obafemi for his title tonight. And Ricky Saints is convinced and begins to back Devon Evans, and Obafemi injects and asks the two champions less an official that they think they can boss around the world the title holder, and Devon Evans excused Obafemi of being afraid of him, the which Obafemi reminds Devon Evans of his current undefeated streak against the young OG, and Olafemi accepts the challenge as all three men stare down others in the ring, and that's what happened right there. Boom, 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 good stuff. You know what I'm saying? Olafemi admits the challenge as all three men stare each other down in the ring, and that's what happened right there. Good stuff, good stuff, good stuff, good stuff. And then a video package detailing Jordan and Grace rivalry followed. You know, Jordan Grace and Kalani Jordan's rival. Then after the match, a video package featuring Tatum Paisley air, and Tatum Paisley addresses deadline opponent and killing member I'll see in opponent Ed cooling member Easy Dame, and says that Dame's goal of stomping out her since work. Paisley says that she has nothing to lose, but that Dame does, and she holds up two dolls of Sean Spears and Nico Vince and says that she and Dame are playing her game now. Then we had Jordan Fence's Grace, guys, which was a fun match. Kalani Jordan Fence's Jordan Grace. Let's talk about it. Jordan makes her entrance before Grace can make hers, and the two are coming to blow, and the brawl quickly sinks itself inside the ring as the bell ring, and Jordan Grace flints Kalani Jordan with the cinch press and big scoop slam from Big Bump Pump, and she follows up with the second, and Jordan Grace looks for a third one to end the croissants and turns into a sit out scoop slam after Jordan escapes the run the ropes, and then the two begin in trading left and right, and Grace looks to use her signature strength one more, and Jordan escapes to the corner and kicks Grace in the face, but Jordan ascends to the corner of her opponent, backfires as Grace refers the iron the Irish whip, and Grace overwhelms Jordan before missing the mark on a corner splash, and Jordan in control and following a basement drop kick that turns Grace inside out. And then Jordan continues to put the heat on Grace, but her sense at diving a rope hung Grace head first into the apron, and since Grace puts the both of them onto the ring and apron, and they slung before Grace tries for a duplex onto the outside, and Jordan denies her and tries to set up a Spanish fly to the onto the outside, and Grace blocked Jordan to look for a powerbomb off the apron, and Grace tries to respond by lipping out Jordan's grabs, and Jordan dives out and sends Grace knee first into the apron as we go to the break. Then back from the break, Jordan continues to put the hurt onto Grace's knee, and she kicks it jiggling into the corner rope and slams her whole body weight onto the rope and cements joints. In a sense, Grace efficiently fights back with a kick to Jordan's face, but essentially Jordan begins to whip Grace ascends joints around the ring post for a sense of the figure four, and back in the ring. Jordan goes for a pin, but she couldn't keep the juggernaut Jordan Grace down for the final three count, and Jordan Grace begins to fight back with some strength and strikes to Jordan Grace since mint, but Jordan fights back to put Jordan Grace into the trio front position before Jordan Grace. I'll say it again before Kalani Jordan. I talk so fast, like I tell you guys, but I'll repeat it again. So Grace begins to fight back with some strikes to Jordan's ascent, but Jordan fights her way back to put Grace into the tree of froze position before Jordan can capitalize off the top rope. However, Jordan Grace pulls Kalani Jordan down by her hair, and both women are down in there, trading left and right hands, and Jordan Grace goes for the flash pin and close, but no cigar as we head back to from the break. Boom, 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 bang, 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 boom, 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 bang, bang, bang. You know what I'm saying? And Jordan Grace delivers a hyper sense fireman suplex to Jordan as she holds her assist knee, but as Kalani Jordan rolls out of the ring and Jordan Grace is forced to follow, Kalani Jordan uses the sense pause to regain control, and after slamming Kalani Jordan onto the steel steps and tries to strike Grace with a steel chair, and she misses and stems to hurt her hand with the chair resil, and Jordan Grace capitalizes with a spine buster but falls to get the pin, and the two are locked in a split leg submission with the toe between their two backs and change as they rock back and forth, and the damage is done to both women as they hobbled to the feet onto their feet, but Jordan Grace is the one back to her sense first, and she gets Jordan into a Fell Nelson hold, and then she drives her into the turnbuckle before going for a rolling suplex that would make Chad Gable proud, and Jordan is folded in half, but she managed to escape the pinfall. Then back onto the outside now. Grace looks to be looking for the pile driver, and Jordan refuses the two in change pile drivers and sets up before Jordan forced them into the steel steps. And Jordan Grace is not a woman to be fault twice, and she blocked Jordan since capitalizing the steel steps. And Jordan returns to the ring, and as Grace steps up the steel chair using in Jordan's earlier sense, and the ref wrenches the chair from Grace hold, and Jordan capitalizes on the distraction and then kicks Grace off the step. Then Grace goes flying into the corner barricade which sits underneath her impact, and it's Jordan's time as she tosses Grace back in the ring and delivers a 450 for the pinfall and 1, 2, 3, and Jordan Grace wins with the 450 and defeats Jordan Grace. Then we had Blake Monroe host the NXT Women's North American Championship Open Challenge. And I'm telling you guys, this was really good stuff right here. Let's talk about it. It was really good stuff. Let's talk about it, guys. So, coming back from the break, Jordan Grace and Thea Hill meet in a very business women locker room for a peep talk, and Thea Hill lashes and attempts to Blake Monroe's open challenge. Before the open challenge gets underway, Blake Monroe takes the mic and she presents herself as a role model for the women in the NXT locker room and manage how she's being a given mood this holiday season, and she turns attention to the entrance ramp and sees which lucky lady would come and answer her call. A sense of a woman to meet the challenge with a sense of face, including Lola Vice and Carmen Peskovic, and Thea Hill bursts out to grip Blake Monroe from behind, and Blake Monroe sinks to the outside just to be ground with contenders, and we are left to wonder which woman Monroe will choose as the show fades to a backstage interview, referencing the debut of Shallow Hill, and he puts into a mouth guard that covers his sense smile before we cut to the commercial. Then we had Lexus King finish Shallow Hill. This match was good, and he picked up his first match in NXT. Thea Hill. Let's give it up to Shallow Hill. I mean, I say Shallow Hill, man. Give it up to that guy. Give it up to him, man. Oh man, he's going to be something big. I'm telling you. When the future comes, I think he's going to be the next big thing in WWE. We'll see what happens though. But if he goes to the main roster, and you know how that is with Triple H, then I don't know. I don't know. Okay, let's talk about it anyways. Shallow Hill is not wasting any time right after making his since entrance, and he tosses King over the top rope to start the match, and he manhandles King, carrying him from corner to corner before laying him out for a running basement clothesline, and King finally regains his falling by sending Hill into the corner, and the NXT veteran is breaking the new guy in with kicks and counter strikes and pinfall since the match, however, continues as Hill kicks out to keep his official and NXT debut dreams alive and kicks straight up, disrespecting Hill in the corner, and his feet looks to choke Hill out before he goes for a running strike, to which Hill resents enough to lay them both out with a double lariat, and King refuse his mouth guard in a sense as he begins to become englued, and a twisting neck breaker from Hill nearly puts King away, but no matter, Hill continues to well on King following a super kick and no sell before overwhelming him with some strikes, and eventually wins following his finisher and whipping a whisper. I was thinking, whisper to the beast, whisper to the beast, whisper to the beast, and he gets us a toothed smile as the ref raises his hand, and King is left whistling in pain as Hill sends his retainer from the ref who has stood it earlier, and that's how Shallow Hill defeated Lexus King. Then we had Eden Peach speak to the crowd. This was fun with this whole stuff with the crowd stuff, guys. Speaking to the crowd, that was fun and stuff. We'll talk about that here, guys, with that whole thing. Speaking to the crowd and stuff, which was fun with Eden Page. Let's talk about this stuff with Eden Page, guys. So Eden Page is in a boastful mood following his death line win against Mr. Iguana, and he says that legend NXT superstar and Reptiles can't top him from his status as the greatest NXT North American champion of all time, and Page begins to question the legacy of the NXT division and paints them as a social media ascent athletes trying to get a picture with their childhood hero, and he brings up John Cena upcoming final match and says that a week after his final match, the 17 will become sense memory, and Page posed that he should take Cena's history place in the company and remind the crowd that he's the greatest NXT North American champion, that title plus his Triple Eight mixed tag team championship with Chelsea Green. It makes him a one of one type of performer. And Ian Page says that there's are three most important days in a person's life: the day they were brought into this world, and the day they leave it, and the day they realize that Eden Page is the biggest star that WWE has to offer. Eden Page decides that NXT to a more perfect state before the lights go out. Then Tony D'Angelo is since walking in the shallows of dark highway on the Titron, and Eden Page tries to turn around to get the jump onto incoming Tony D'Angelo, but Tony D'Angelo catches him with a cinch choke slam, and D'Angelo says nothing as the statement ends, and that's what happened right there, guys. Then we had Winston Clear with Kendall Gray facing Soruka. This was a fun match with the women. Soruka picked up the win right here. Let's talk about it. Since I'll say it again. Sinclair and Ruka circle each other first before locking up, and Sinclair gets Soruka in a full Nelson, but Soruka fights out of it, and they played their cat and mouse game before Sinclair gets Ruka in a calf crusher, and Ruka escapes and controls Sinclair with a headlock before, excuse me, before going for a kick, and Sinclair tries to get a flash pin, but Soruka dances around her till she gets a sit out facebuster in, and the camera pans up, and Saria is looking down on Soruka from the crowd, and Soruka gives a weak wave before Sinclair goes for a flash pin, and the two trade pins combos before Soruka pushes Sinclair towards the ropes, and Sinclair managed to kick out Soruka essentially with knee before diving one of them to essentially into the canvas, and she puts a knee base submission on Soruka, and despite Soruka since to fight back, and Sinclair has locked in, and Saria continues to watch as Soruka makes her way to her feet to land a kick and series of spin back elbows to Sinclair, and Sinclair Irish whipped Soruka into the corner, which sets Soruka up for a beautiful missile drop kick, and Soruka gets some side kicks onto Sinclair before Sinclair lands on some heavy chops to the former double champ, and it's a dragon suplex from Sinclair in a corner. Soruka dodge the oncoming Sinclair, and as Sinclair is dodged from the ropes, Soruka lands a breathtaking soul snatcher for a quick victory, and Saria slaps half heartily as the ref raises Ruka's hand, and Soruka won the match, and that's how she won. And then as Ruka is celebrating on the ropes, Saria begins to sense the staircase before choosing to walk away, and Soruka jumps the barricade to go after her as Final Influence make their entrance as we cut to the commercial after. And then we have the NXT Women's Champion JC Jane confronting the Iron Survivor Kendall Gray, which this was good stuff, guys. I'm telling you. This stuff right here, which was really good with Kendall Gray and JC Jane face to face before their meetup. Oh man, before their meetup that they're going to have at New Year's Evil. I can't wait for New Year's Evil, man. I'm telling you. I'm telling you, man. That stuff this coming Tuesday is going to be so good for New Year's Evil, I'm telling you. But let's talk about it anyways, guys. So JC Jane and Fallen Haley and Listen Reed, I'll say it again. Listen Reed confront Gray, and a since Winston Clear and JC Jane celebrate. I'll say it again. JC Jane celebrates Gray for her Iron Survivor win in current NXT popular and calls it a celebrate, a Celebrella story, and JC Jane says that Gray is living in the dream, a sense that JC Jane says reality will burst. Gray bubble comes New Year's Evil, that Gray lose will be concert with, I'll say it again, cast asterisk, asterisk, and JC Jane promised that the NXT crowd will forgive her after her New Year's Evil lose and will move on to the next flavor of the month. And JC Jane dismissed the idea of great potential and says that it's not doesn't win championship, not one that matters. Anyone compares to JC Jane's NXT Women's Championship. And JC Jane turns to the camera and addresses the ungrateful NXT crowd. She brags about her successful 2025 from going to an underappreciated to the top women in NXT Women's division, and she lists her athletes, including her states, to a two-time NXT Women's Champion, and she calls herself the Federation and glue of the NXT Women's division, and calls Gray a bootleg Kurt Angle with a ponytail as she refused to stand down against the Iron Survivor. And Gray asks JC Jane if she could talk now, to which JC Jane refused, and Kendall Gray moves on and anyways acknowledges her relief in ring and experience, and Jason Jane dramatically dramatically reacts to her words, and Gray highlights that and despises her underdog position as her delivered just as the NXT crowd didn't expect her to win the Iron Survivor Challenge, and Gray raises that she didn't expect and Jason Jane to dethrone former NXT Women's Champion Stephanie Falcare, and Grace says that she's an underdog who will bite back. And then Jacy Jane sneers in her face and wonders out loud why Gray thinks she can stand in the ring with Final Influence, who she calls the most dominant woman in faction wrestling, and Sinclair comes to defend Gray, but Reed and Handel chime into the sense the pair, and Fallen Haley begins the brawl with a strike to Gray, and the Final Influence easily overwhelms Sinclair and Gray, and Sinclair shows a sense sign of life as she fights off JC Jane, and Fallen Haley is in immediately Final Influence number wins out as JC Jane stands tall over Gray to eight the once again to end the statement, and that's what happened right there. Then Hank, Hank and Tank are renewed to the NXT crowd in a video diary from their ascents to Japan, and Hank and Tank appear in the backstage interview where they are confronted by OTM, and Tank Lesnar says that the peer has never forgotten what OTM did to them before the Japan trip and challenged the trio to a tag team match on next week's episode of NXT, and OTM accepts, and we cut to a commercial. Then back from the commercial, Blake Monroe confronts the GM Ever Rain and announces that she will no longer be doing an open challenge, and Ever Rain announces that Blake Monroe will put her title against Thea Hill on the next NXT episode, which we'll talk about that, guys, which was amazing. I'm telling you. Then, then we had the main event. Then we had this main event with Obafemi and Devon Evans. Great match. Great freaking match between Obafemi and Devon Evans. Let's talk about this NXT Championship match. Let's talk about it. So Obafemi backs Devon Evans into a corner, and Sicily especially, and it looks to be a mind game and played as Obafemi backs off and breaks on Devon Evans towards him, and then the two lock up one more after the ref gets a cinch count, and Obafemi backs off with a smirk, and Devon Evans levels him with a super kick and looks to go for his signature springboard cutter, but Obafemi withstands in it with his brute strength, and Obafemi looks to get a running knee strike onto a corner Devon Evans, but Devon Evans dodges and responds with a wild kick to get him a near fall, but no dice, and the two continue the fight for match, match, match the say collide. I'll just say that, guys, collide, and dominate. I'll say it again, dominate. The two continue the fight for match dominate, and with both of them trading strikes and dodges and corners, and Obafemi Hodge holds his jaw as Devon Evans is on the ground, but despite the setback, Evans comes back with a ground re-round spinning kick to score another near fall onto the ruler. Then the ruler Obafemi. Then Devon Evans looks to mentions this match domination, and then Obafemi takes the charge of Devon Evans out of the thin air and sends him into the corner, and then wells on him before picking him up for a backbreaker over the knee. Then then accept Obafemi hold Devon Evans airborne for a bit with sucking his thumb and baby steps for Obafemi. Then Obafemi continues his since the driver's seat as he ascends as a risen also again as a resting neck lock onto Devon Evans, and Devon Evans fins as Obafemi is comfortable here. After a bit, the two raise their feet, and the strappy Evans tries to fight back with some elbows to the man, and Obafemi still holding on. So it's to the corner, and they go to the break, and it's a since standing drop kick from Devon Evans, And as Olivemi rolls out of the ring, the air burn, Devon Evans looks to sense a spot, and Devon Evans looks to sense Olivemi onto the outside, but Olivemi plays these games before and grabs the young OG foot to bring him back and forth to the earth. Then essentially an Irish whip into the apron, but Evans jumps onto the apron like a spider to perform a springboard moonsault. Then Omofemi catches him, however, and looks to throw him into the apron like a dart before Devon Evans sits free mid stride, and Evans push Femi into the apron, but he's not playing the big dog for long, and Femi is in fade and lays out Evans as we go to the break, and then back from the break, Obafemi continues to land the pain onto Devon Evans, and he tosses Evans essentially onto the apron before ruthless tossing back into the ring, and Evans since a flash pin and goes for into I'll say again a flash pin and goes up in smoke, and most likely just makes Obafemi angrily as the ruler Obafemi refuses to hold back his following strike and stomps. Obafemi hold nothing back as he dives Evans' knee into the canvas, and the young OG hops and fluffs into pain as Obafemi continues to dominate the match, and Obafemi continues duplexing and playing disrespectful as the ruler performs, sets up in front of the Rizzling Evans before breaking to the crowd. To the crowd, I'm sorry, guys, to the crowd. Then back from the break, Evans is beginning to fight back against the ruler, and that it's till Obafemi brings him up and slams him down onto his knees for a near fall. Then Evans has brought enough heel and it shows in his guileless, I'll say, on his glad ghastly scare as he crawls to the ropes, and both men are on their feet, and boom, 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 bang, 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 boom, 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 boom. Then a double axe handle strike to the back of his neck sends the Von Evans crashing down, and then the apron is since placed, but Devon Evans since to showing signs of life here, and he dumps Obafemi to the outside and managed to reverse out of Obafemi's followed up powerbomb, and since sends him crashing down with a Hurricanrana, and Obafemi is since to charge at Devon Evans like a speeding bull, and then but Devon Evans dives out of the way and leaving Obafemi to near spear Booker T in half. Then Evans crawls back into the ring as Obafemi struggles to get his bearing the champ and managed to get back into the ring and right into the landing zone for a frog splash. Then another one land, but it would not be Evans' day and not just yet. And Olivemi kicks out after two frog splash, and then Devon Evans is since frustration and exhibition, and he's fighting on a sense and pepperling the ruler with strikes before landing a screw roundhouse, and he levels Olivemi with a suicide dive onto the outside, then looks to put the ascent point on the match with a top rope dive, but Olivemi clocks him with a right forearm, and Evans responds with a two-plex ascent, but Olivemi lands on his feet, and Evans is not giving up, and he lands a cutter, but only gets a near fall and responds, and he goes to rebound off the apron, and but Olivemi interrupts with him in a corkscrew uppercut, and since Evans lands another cutter, and he goes for the ascent to the top rope and cutter that makes Cody Rhodes jealous, and it's 1-2. Then at the 11th hour, the ref is pulling from the ring, and he can hear Evans' heart break in two as the interference hand is revealed to be Ricky Saints, and the ref shouts at Saints, but a top rope dive from Evans really shut the former NXT champion up, and the match is not called off since despite the consternation, and Evans gets back in the ring and lands another screw roundhouse kick onto Oba, and he goes for some insurance, but Olivemi snatches him out of midair with a sniff lariat to running uppercuts into the corner, sniff off any life of Evans as and Olivemi looks to distractly into the camera and directly at Saturday Night Main Event opponent and stuff before the ending of the match with the fall from Grace, and that's how he won with the fall of Grace, and that's how Olivemi defeated the Von Evans Then Olivemi leaves the ring, but not before staring down as luring Saints, and they stand as the show went off. And that's what happened, guys. And I give this show a 9 out of 10, too. NXT is so great, I'm telling you guys. I love everything that NXT does, man. Like from top to bottom, and the team, that partnership. I think that's the only thing that's making me like really watching WWE is NXT and TNA's partnership. If it wasn't for that, I probably wouldn't be carrying right now. I'd probably be doing shorts for you guys, like I do with the Raw and SmackDown stuff. I'd probably be doing those shorts. But anyways, guys, that's all I have to say. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit those notification bells, and we'll be right back for another NXT review. So yes, guys, we'll be here for another NXT review, and that's all I have to say. This is CJD. I'll say it again. This is Christopher Jackson Denver. I'll say it again. This is Christopher Jackson Denver, 2006. Peace out and take care and much love, guys. Much love and peace out and take care and much love.